Oh, there we go. Looks like we are live, everybody. Had to make sure I had all the tech correct. So happy Sunday, everybody. I'm so glad that you could make it today. I know that we've been in a financial series for the entire month of January. So who has been enjoying this series? I know the pastor has been covering a lot of information, and I hope that it has truly been a blessing to everybody. And hopefully, I don't have to introduce myself, but just in case there is somebody here that isn't familiar with me, I'm Nicole Hatcher. I'm the First Lady of the Life Church. And today I'm here to just present some of the nuts and bolts of personal finance. For those of you who did not know, I'm a personal finance nerd. So this is kind of my thing. This is what I do. So I'm happy to be here with you all today. Hello. Yes, good snowy Sunday. Absolutely. It is really coming down outside. So I'm sure shortly the kids will be ready to go out and play in some snow. And probably you all are looking forward to doing the same. Hello, everybody that is here. I'm super excited that you're here. And hopefully you walk away from this presentation learning something. And I hope that is super helpful for you. I think the pastor might be hopping in here for a moment to do a quick intro. I don't know if he is or not. We'll give him a moment. There he is.
Well, I don't think you need any type of intro whatsoever. So I don't think I'm gonna forgo that. Just excited to have you do this presentation today to elevate, to encourage, to inspire, and to inform us all. I just want to welcome those who are already in the stream and those who will be coming in. We thank God for your presence and your participation. And we know his power will be evident in what is shared today. So I'm going to now turn it over to you, First Lady, the love of my life, my wife, my heart, and just allow you to do your Frugal Chic Life thing. I'm going to have my thing out here to take some notes and learn myself. So hope everybody is blessed as you watch today.
All right, let me share my screen here for a moment. See if I can get that to work. Share screen. All right, so I think you guys should be able to see me, hopefully, as well as the slides. There we go. Perfect, perfect. So today we're going to just be talking about how to achieve financial peace. So money is so interesting because it's something that all of us are concerned about. It's something that all of us think about. And it's something that a lot of us stress about, but we don't really talk about it, especially in the church. So I think it's really great that you all showed up here today on a Sunday. You could be doing anything else with your time, but you showed up here to hopefully learn how to achieve financial peace, how to do a little bit better with your finances in the coming year and hopefully for the rest of your life. So let's get into it. So I've already introduced myself. Most of you all here already know me. You know me as the First Lady of the Life Church, Nicole Hatcher. But I also run a financial literacy business that I say I stumbled into it, but I know it was by no accident. God always has a plan. So a few years back, I had a bunch of student loan debt. And one day I was just Googling and YouTubing how to do a budget. And I stumbled upon several YouTube channels and different people's strategies and philosophy around creating budgets. And what I did was eventually I started following some of those concepts, and then I started my own YouTube channel. And so here I am almost 6 years later, have I think almost 500 YouTube videos on personal finance. So if you didn't know that about me, I'm a personal finance nerd. So one thing I want to do first off with this presentation is ask you all a couple of uncomfortable questions. We already know money is an uncomfortable topic as it is, but have you ever lost sleep over your money? In the chat, go ahead, type yes. Or if you don't want to, just go ahead and raise your hand in your house, even though I can't see you. Have you ever lost sleep over your money? I'm gonna go ahead and raise my hand. I absolutely have at times lost sleep over my money, whether it was back when I was trying to figure out how to pay off my student loan debt or how to figure out how to make that budget work, how to pay for daycare because it's expensive, all of those different things. But I'm sure at some point in time, most of us have lost sleep over our money. So I would love for all of us to get to the place where we are no longer losing sleep over our money. We can rest easy at night knowing that things are working out. A second question that might also make you uncomfortable, maybe even more so than this question, is do you pray about your finances? I'm going to just pause right there. Do you pray about your finances? I don't know. It's quiet. Hopefully you do. And if you don't, I'm going to hopefully encourage you to start doing so. We sometimes, again, we're worried about finances a lot. We lose sleep over it. We stress about it. We fuss about it, sometimes with our spouses, and we lose sleep over it. We have anxiety and stress sometimes around money. But why don't we pray about it? It's just like money can consume so many aspects of our lives, but we oftentimes don't think to pray about our finances or about our money or about what's going on in our financial lives. So I know that might be an uncomfortable question for you, but it's something that I'm going to definitely encourage you to do. And you might not even know where to get started with praying with your finances. So I'm looking in the comments here. Sherry says, of course. Carlette, hey, Carlette, says yes. Larissa says, not really. It's okay. We're going to get there. Kenneth says yes. Sometimes. Sherry says, I seem to only pray about my finances when the bank account was low and needed the increase. Amen to that. Look, I know that sometimes when we get in that sense of desperation, we're in desperation mode. We are like, Lord, please help me come up with the money to pay this bill. Help me figure this thing out. It is absolutely a lot of times where we're in that desperate situation where we want to reach out and say, Lord, rescue me. And that's just how life is in general, right? Sometimes we wait until we get into that moment. But there are so many other ways that we can explore and integrate prayer into our financial life and vice versa. So some things that you can begin to pray for in terms of your finances: discernment. Discernment. This is a big one for me. Because sometimes, like I said, I'm a money nerd. So I get to the place where I think I know everything. And, sometimes the Lord has to just come in and humble me and say, no. So I have to be open to hearing what he has to say about what it is he wants me to do with the resources that he has given me. So discernment is a big one. Pray for wisdom. Pray to have pure intentions. Now, for somebody like myself who is an entrepreneur, I'm an investor, I have a business, I have all of these different things. I'm ambitious, I have goals. I can sometimes get focused on myself, right? That's just the nature of us. That's the sinful nature of being a human being. So I have to pray for wisdom, and I have to pray that my intentions are pure. So my prayer is, Lord, let my heart be pure. Let my intentions be pure. Let me be seeking these things, seeking to grow my wealth so that I can help other people. Not that it's just about me, but I can be able to leave an inheritance to my children and maybe even my children's children to be able to do more things in my community. So the way that I see it is that broke people cannot help broke people, right? So if you have a heart to give, you are going to need resources one way or another. So that's one of my prayers. So pure intentions. And pray for peace. Like if you're in a place where you are losing sleep over your money and you are worried constantly and anxious about when that next paycheck is going to hit or how you're going to cover the bills, pray for peace. Or even if you're in a place when you're in a marriage, right? I can vouch for this, having been married, a long time now, not quite 2 decades, but a couple years short of 2 decades. And I can say that money is unequivocally probably the number one thing that my husband and I have argued about over the years. And that's nothing unique to us. That is representative of most couples across the world, across the US. We are all sometimes getting into this disagreements with our spouse about how to handle the money. So one of the things that I started doing over the years after beating my head against the wall so many times was begin to ask for peace. Lord, give me the right words to speak to this man, to get him to understand what it is that I'm talking about with this whole budget situation and saving and all of these great things. So pray for peace. Sometimes you just have to release that control, ask God to give you peace, and just let him work it out. Stop kind of trying to control everything. This one is definitely for the ladies. Stop trying to control everything and let God do what he is meant to do. Let him take control. So why do we struggle so much with our money? Have you ever asked yourself that question? Why do we struggle so much with our money? I know I've asked myself that many, many times, having tried to figure out my own finances and then starting a YouTube channel and then starting to coach people, getting on the phone with people, getting on Zoom meetings with people, doing workshops and talking to people. speaking at church and talking to people. Why do we struggle so much with money? There's no easy, straightforward answer. But what I have found is that money is about 80% behavior, 20% elementary school math, right? The math part is easy. If you made it to the fifth grade, you can do a budget. If you made it to the fifth grade, you have the fundamentals of what it takes to be successful with your finances. You don't have to have any advanced math degree or know how to do complex equations. It's basically elementary school math, right? And definitely if you made it to middle school, you can handle it, right? So why do we struggle so much? A part of it is because it's about behavior and mindset. That is where I find a lot of us get tripped up. Behavior and mindset. So it's not just about the numbers. You might be great. You might even work with numbers on your job and you excel there. But when it comes to your own finances, struggle bus all the way, right? But we are hopefully aiming to change that. So mindset and personality are big parts of how we handle our finances. A lot of times, this is the root of what's going on in your marriage. If you have found that you argue with your spouse quite a bit about money, sometimes it's upbringing, it's home of origin issues, which I know the pastor touched on. It's mindset, and it's just those things that are ingrained in us. And sometimes it's many unconscious things, unconscious beliefs about money that we are not even aware that we have. So what I wanted to do, I thought I would mix it up a little bit. Normally when I go into a presentation, I get right into it. I start talking about the nuts and bolts and how to do the budget. But I thought it would be great to lead with mindset, because that, again, is so many times where we get tripped up. So money personality. So I'm just going to spend a few minutes talking about money personality, and hopefully some of it will resonate with you. You might be able to identify some traits that you have that you can identify within yourself and maybe even your spouse, your significant other. And you could say, you know what? He is not just being hard-headed all this time. These are parts of his personality. I just have to learn how to work with it. So let's get into it. So I think it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 different ones that I'm going to cover. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on it. But when I first came across this information, I found it super informational and very enlightening. So hopefully you'll see it the same way. So the first one that I want to talk about is the guardian, right? The guardian. That is the person that's always alert, very careful with money, right? And if you start to identify with any of these, just raise your hand. Give me a raised hand emoji in the chat once I come across something that resonates with you. The guardian. So this is the very first one that really resonated with me. Excuse me, let me grab some water. So the guardian, this was the first type that really resonated with me. As a person who's sort of money oriented and a budget nerd, self-proclaimed, I'm somewhat of a guardian. I am always pretty alert and careful with my money, always watching my coins very closely. And the thing that you'll find with these different money personalities is that it can be one of two extremes, or sometimes you're in the middle, or sometimes you're a mix of a couple of different money personalities. So the gift of being a guardian when it comes to money is that you are alert, you're very careful, but some of the pitfalls is that you are very prone to worry and anxiety. And this is even if you're doing well financially. Some of you might not be on the budget struggle bus where you struggle with living paycheck to paycheck, but you always have this sense of worry, no matter how much money you earn, no matter how much you make, no matter how much you save and invest, no matter how well you do professionally, there's always this little nagging sensation in the back of your mind that is never enough. So the guardian can sometimes be prone to worry and anxiety about money. The pleasure seeker. I'm sure if it's not you, you definitely know somebody who falls in this category, okay? The pleasure seeker. And this is the person that prioritizes pleasure and enjoyment in the here and now. They are all about YOLO. You only live once. They are all about the enjoyment, and that's their gift. They are present in the moment. They are enjoying life. They are not letting a moment pass them by. But the pitfall of this particular money personality is that you could be very impulsive, right? You can make choices in the moment that will be detrimental to your finances in the here and now, and then also years later. And it can also have a trickle down effect for those that you love, whether it's your spouse and also your children. You are burning through all the money that you're earning right now, enjoying life, and not leaving anything, not leaving any wealth or a legacy for those that you love. The pleasure seeker is also not very future oriented. It's all about today, not thinking about tomorrow. So raise your hand in the chat anytime if you see something here that resonates with you. If you are a guardian, a pleasure seeker, or maybe your spouse is, don't call them out in the chat, especially if they're on here with you, but just make a note of it in your mind, okay? The idealist, this is another type of personality type that can significantly impact you with money. The idealist places a great value on creativity. So they could be that free spirit in the relationship. They could be the creative, artistic person. They're compassionate about social justice or social issues or spiritual growth. And this makes the idealist very compassionate, okay? Very compassionate about life and about other individuals. And this a lot of times is what I see happen in the church, where we get very focused on, spiritual growth, which is absolutely important. But we forget that it takes money also to live in this world. Okay, Jesus could come back today, tomorrow, and none of this money stuff is going to matter. Okay, I'm here for it. None of that is gonna matter. You're not gonna have to worry anymore. No more worry, no more anxiety, no more stress about your money. But until that day comes, we have to live in this world. We have to operate. And money is one of the tools that helps us to do that. So we have to have balance in all things. So sometimes we get into this mindset, especially in the church, where we're not necessarily focused on money. And it could be because of a sense of guilt. You know, the thought that if I have money, then that means I'm not spiritual. How many have heard that? Give me a yes in the chat if you have ever heard somebody say something like that. That if you have money, you can't make it into heaven. We have all heard these stories. We have all heard these myths about money and about religion, about spirituality. Give me a yes in the chat if you have ever heard somebody in the church make a misguided statement like that. And especially if you heard it younger, and when you were younger, as a child, that imprints on your mind, and that definitely can shape how you operate with money. So there could be a lot of guilt around money. People that get into careers and earn a lot of money, they may feel a great sense of guilt about that and say, you know what, I'm going to give it all away. I'm going to do other things with it. And sometimes there's also an aversion to money. I don't want to earn any money. I just want to make enough to get by. Money is not important, or you avoid money. The saver, okay? The saver is the person that seeks security and abundance in accumulating more financial assets, okay? The gift here is that they're self-sufficient. They have a sense of abundance when it comes to saving. But when they fall into their default position to the other extreme, the pitfall is that you can get into hoarding, okay? Let me just earn, save. And that can become a situation where you become a penny pincher, or you even become miserly. You're storing it all up and not being a good steward, not helping other people, just hoarding it all for this sense of personal security. So just a quick insight here for myself. I kind of fall between a guardian and a saver, and another type that I'll talk about a little bit later. It's like a combination of all three, where I'm sort of a mix, and depending on what's going on in my life, I can be here, I could be there, I could be in between. So hopefully you're identifying with some of this as well. Okay. The star. So I'm sure all of you have a star. Like you know a star in your family. It might be your sibling, it might be somebody that you know, your best friend. The star is the person that spends and invests or gives away money to be recognized, or to feel hip or classy, or to be known, or to increase their self-esteem. And they may not even be aware of it. And the gift here is that they can be leaders, they can be stylish, but the pitfall is that it can come across as arrogant or self-important or pretentious. The innocent is the personality type that avoids significant attention on money and believes and hopes that life it'll just work out for the better. It's just going to work out for the best. I don't have to plan. I don't have to do anything. I'm hopeful that life will just work out and that my money will just work out. And those people are very adaptable and hopeful. But the problem is that they can have a tendency towards avoidance or helplessness when it comes to their money. And the caretaker, this one, unfortunately, a lot of women fall into this. A lot of women fall into this. We're caretakers often by nature. And a lot of times the caretaker will give or lend money. Hello, anybody? Lending money to express compassion, to show love, and of course, generosity as well. And those are all good things. The caretaker is empathetic and generous, which are great characteristics to have. But at the same time, we can enable other people. This, namely, we see this with, as I said, women a lot of times fall into this personality type, and we sometimes will enable our kids. And it starts small with giving our kids everything that we never had. I know I have fallen prey to this too, wanting to give the kids things that I didn't have. And at the same time, it's just like sometimes it's good for them to work and to build up a work ethic. And sometimes it's okay for them to struggle a little bit. It will help shape their personality and give them that work ethic. And I don't want to enable them to the point where they don't want to ever do things for themselves, because at some point in time in the future, I want them to leave my house and I want to be able to do my own thing and travel and do all those other things. I don't want to have my adult children at home forever, right? So the caretaker, one of the downsides is that you can self-abandon. You could be so caught up with taking care of other people that oftentimes we neglect our own finances. And again, women, we do this so many times. I've seen women in the comments on my YouTube channel say, I took care of my kids. I did all of these things. I made sure they went to school. I paid for all the things that I never had for them. And now I'm in my mid 50s. I barely save for retirement. I don't know what to do. And, that situation can get to a place where now, as your children become adults, you now have to be dependent upon them because you didn't handle your business early on. And the kids took up all those resources, which of course we want to take care of our kids, but sometimes we overdo it at the expense of taking care of our own business. So I always tell women, put on your own financial oxygen mask, put on your own financial oxygen mask first before you can help other people. Okay. Make sure that your foundation is solid before you start giving away everything that you have at your own expense, because one day you're going to need to retire, and it could be sooner than you thought. Life happens, people get sick. And the research supports the fact that most people retire way earlier than they actually intended to because of health reasons. They're no longer able to function at their physical capacity. So a lot of times you might have this ideal retirement age and you say, you know what, I have 25 more years, I have 20 more years, but life could happen. People get sick, things happen, people have to go on disability. And you may not have as much time as you think to plan those things out and to save and invest the way that you want to. So ladies, of course, some guys are caretakers too. I don't want to just generalize and say it's all women, but by nature, a lot of times. So just be cautious about that. Sherry says, I'm definitely a bit of a caretaker. Definitely, Sherry, and knowing you for so many years, you are definitely a caretaker. And that's not a bad thing. It's just having to keep it in check sometimes and just make sure that we're checking the boxes to also take care of ourselves. Again, one of my worst fears is that I will have to be dependent upon my kids when I get older because of whatever reason, that I will somehow be a burden to them while they're trying to live their lives and take care of their kids once they're grown. I don't want them to have to take care of me financially because I didn't do what I was supposed to do when I was younger, in my younger years. So it's always that balance, okay? But caretaking is a great thing, but remember to take care of yourself too. Okay, the empire builder. I think this is the last personality type before we spend the last 20 minutes or so talking about some actual nuts and bolts. But I thought it was so important to just talk about these personality types because once I stumbled across these different personality types, it gave me a lot of insight as to why I do a lot of the things that I do. And I had a lot of insight as to why my husband does a lot of the things that he does, and based on his personality. And it allowed me to give myself some grace. It allowed me to realize that, I have certain leanings in certain areas. And so does my husband. He came to the table with those things. I came to the table with my stuff, with my own baggage too. And it helped me to realize that, this is even more reason why we have to pray, because we do have certain leanings in certain areas, and we have to pray that we keep those things in check and that hopefully the gifts begin to shine and that we can stay away from the pitfalls that come along with some of these personality traits. So the empire builder. The empire builder thrives on power and innovation to create something of enduring value. They want to have their lives mean something. Okay. And this is the third one that I think I kind of fall into as well. The first one was being very alert with my finances. The other is being the saver, the guardian, the saver, and the empire builder. Those are the three that I kind of make up. So the empire builder is a person that's very career oriented, maybe. They are very entrepreneurial. They want to start this business. They have big goals that they want to accomplish. They're innovative and decisive. But some of the pitfalls is that you can have this sense of greediness where it's just like more, always more, never enough. Okay. And then that's part of the reason why I say it's so important to integrate prayer into your financial life so that you can ask for that wisdom, ask for that discernment, and say, God, you know what, if there's anything in my heart where I'm being greedy, my motives are not right, don't give it to me. You know, I wholeheartedly believe that a lot of us will never achieve the type of financial wealth that we want because our hearts are just not there, you know. And I say, Lord, I know if my heart is not right, you're not going to give it to me anyway. So just keep it. I don't need it because it's going to push me in a direction I don't want to go. My heart is not ready for it. My heart is not prepared for it. So that's a part of my prayer, is that my intentions are always pure. So I would encourage you to pray. Carlette says, ouch. I would encourage you to pray about your finances if you haven't already been doing that, because it can really be a major blessing for you. And any area like this that touches our lives so much, why wouldn't we pray about it? Why wouldn't we give it over to God when we know that we've been struggling with our spouse for so many years about the budget and about the finances, and nagging and wagging fingers and all of that, blaming and arguing? Sometimes we just got to turn it over to God and say, you know what, Lord, I'm not equipped to handle this. You take it. Show me what I need to say to this man or to this woman to make sure that they get on board with living a debt-free life and building a financial legacy for our children. All right. Anytime you guys have questions, feel free to hop in. I don't want it to just be a one-sided conversation. I appreciate y'all comments in the chat. Did I lose? Okay, there's the live chat. Okay. So a couple of little mindset things, little hacks that I've noticed that sometimes we fall into different patterns. We talk about personality, and then another part of it is mindset as well. So here's one that I hear so often, and especially among younger people, 20 somethings, 30 somethings. I don't want to just point at the millennials because I'm like borderline millennial myself. Like, I'm a Gen Xer, but I have millennial tendencies. So I'm very sensitive to just, somebody putting me in a box, right? But here's something that I hear a lot of times from especially young people. I'll do better once I have more money. Like something miraculous is just going to happen, right? Once I hit the jackpot, or once I hit the Powerball, right? Once I hit the lottery, I'm just going to all of a sudden I'm going to be a great steward. I'm going to give, I'm going to save, I'm going to invest. I'm going to do all these wonderful things. But what I find is that once you get more money, more just amplifies what's already there. So if you're not praying about your financial life, if you're not a good steward over what you have, when you get more, it just pushes you to a more extreme version of what you had before you had money. So this is a huge myth that I see among young people. I'll do better with my money once I have more. No, it'll just amplify the problems. More money, more problems. We have heard that many times. So the attitude adjustment here, if you find yourself in this mindset of I'll do better once I have more, is to just be a good steward over what you have now. Could it be possible that God is just waiting for you to take the step to see how you're going to handle what he's already blessed you with before he gives you the responsibility of more? Yeah, could be possible. I work hard. I deserve it. I have been there before so many times, y'all don't even know. I work hard, I deserve it. I work many hours, so I feel like I deserve that shopping trip, or I deserve that spa treatment, or the brand new car, or whatever the case is. I work hard, so I should play hard. That's fine. I'm all about enjoying life because we don't know when our next day is, we don't know when our time is going to be up. That is very true for those who have that YOLO mentality. It is true we have a finite amount of time here. But at the same time, people are living a whole lot longer than they used to. in prior generations. So we have to make sure that we're also putting something up for the future. Okay. Enjoy life now, but also think about the future. So the attitude adjustment, if you find yourself with this I deserve it mentality, or I work hard, so I should play hard, is to remind yourself that you deserve to be debt free. You deserve to sleep peacefully at nights and not lie awake worrying about your money or being fearful about your money. You only live once. There we go. You only live once. And one thing that I heard a few years ago that I really liked that kind of reframed this you only live once mentality is live in the day, but not for the day. So live in the day means that you enjoy the moments that are here. You enjoy spending time with your family and your kids while they're here. You enjoy spending traveling, because look, times could come like COVID where we can't travel. And I found myself looking back through my phone all the time, and I'm looking back through these pictures and looking at the past, like, look when we was on the beach in Jamaica, look when we was in Cozumel, look when we went to the Bahamas, right? I'm so glad that we took that time out, because you never know when something like this could happen. And your movements are restricted because of something out of your control. So it is important to enjoy and not to be so future oriented, to always be so focused on the future where you don't enjoy the day. So that's where the balance comes in. That is where the balance comes in. Comments. Sherry says, so true. I found that God really started blessing me financially when I chose to trust him and tithe regularly, recognizing it all belongs to him. Amen to that. Amen to that. And this is a mindset that I find that a lot of people give into, and that is, I'm just bad with money. I'm not good at it. I'm not good at budgeting, so I'm not going to do nothing. I'm just going to let whatever happens happen. I'm just bad with money. But we all know that our words have power, right? We know it intuitively, but our actions don't always support that. So be careful about the words that you say over yourself. I'm bad with money, girl. I'm broke. That's not cute. That is not cute. That is not cute. Don't speak about yourself in that way, and speak positive words over yourself, and you would be surprised the difference that it makes. So sometimes we made bad choices. I have made plenty of bad choices with money over the years. But you have to show yourself some grace. You have to show yourself again and your spouse some grace, because we all make mistakes, and you can and you will make improvements. So let's talk about financial goal setting for a little bit. I know a lot of us are still in that. Oh, this is actually, yeah, I lost all track of what day it was and the date. It's actually the last day of January right now. And sometimes we start to lose focus on our goals by January 5th, by January 2nd. We are all focused around this arbitrary day of January 1, and we lose sight of the things that we want to accomplish. So for those of you that are goal oriented, I would encourage you to do some financial goal setting as well. And typically what I like to tell people is to kind of look at these 4 buckets of setting some debt payoff goals if you have debts currently, setting a savings goal, an investment goal, and an income goal. So these will all serve you well. And when it comes to debt, it's important to just realize that you don't have to have a life that is full of debt, even if that is what you saw growing up, even if that is what our consumer-driven society tells us at every turn, is that everybody has debt. And true, here in the US especially, it's very hard to achieve something like home ownership without taking on a mortgage in many cases. And a lot of us, especially Black and brown people, are starting behind the 8 ball. Okay. We don't have the inheritance. We don't have somebody that left us a big pot of cash that we can then use to cash flow or pay for our home in cash, or use as a big down payment for the house. Right. So sometimes we have to take on these things, or we have to take on student loan debt, potentially to realize that dream of going to college or helping our kids to go to college. But just remember that all debts are not created equal. Although I don't ascribe to the thought that there is such thing as good debt and bad debt, I think debt is just debt. But all debt is not created equal. A payday loan is not the same as a strategically well-researched mortgage for a reasonable home that can one day be an asset that you could pass down to your kids. A huge car payment is not the same as a mortgage payment. So these different things you have to try to sort of prioritize in your own life and figure out what's important to you. Have these conversations as well with your spouse. And for those who might not even be married yet, you might not uh, be in a marital relationship. You want to start talking with potential spouses. If you're dating, you want to start having these conversations with people that you're dating. You don't want to, on the first date, start talking about, well, how much student loan debt do you have? That might scare them off. You don't want to do that. But you want to start having these conversations if this is somebody that you could see yourself being with for the long haul. So when you're looking at your financial goal setting, look at your set of debt payoff goal potentially. Maybe you want to pay off X number of student loan debts in the year or credit card bills, or maybe you want to pay your house off early. Maybe you commit to say maybe putting an extra $100 on your mortgage every month, or having a savings goal that you want to pay for your next car in cash, or putting a 50% down payment on your car, an investment goal of some sort to start saving for your kids for college, or setting up some sort of income goal that you want to reach, or getting a side hustle so that you can accelerate some of these other goals. Maybe your W-2 job isn't going to get it done. Maybe you need to start that business idea that you have, or that second stream of income so that you're not so reliant upon your one paycheck to cover your expenses. So some things to look at, questions to ask yourself before you start to set any financial goals is, what is my why? This is huge. And don't just glaze over this, because I know what's my why sounds kind of woo-woo, like, okay, it's not super important, but it is very important to know what your why is, because when you get on a financial freedom journey and you decide that you want to do this for the long haul, best believe there are going to be moments when you get frustrated and you want to give up. You do not feel the budget right now. I just want to, sometimes I have those moments too. I just want to shop. I just want to lay on a couch and put everything in my Amazon cart. And then before you know it, those little boxes start showing up on your porch and you forgot what you ordered. So in those moments when you feel distracted and life happens, you get busy and distracted and you forget about what your goals are, it's important to know what your why is. Maybe your why is because you want to have that financial legacy for your children, or you want to be able to pass down more than a stack of bills to your kids. You want to pass down bank accounts, investment accounts, Roth IRAs, investment properties. You want to have some things, tangible things that you can leave this earth when you go, for your kids to inherit. What are my values? What drives me? What do I ultimately want to achieve? So reverse engineer your goals. Start with a big goal that might even seem a little bit scary. About a year ago, I set this goal. I just woke up one morning and said, you know what, I'm going to save $100,000. And I said that to myself, and I was like, yeah, I'm going to do it. 5 minutes later, I was like, you can't do that. What are you talking about? Maybe it's not as realistic as I might think, or maybe the goal that you have in mind might not be as realistic, but shoot for the stars. Start with a big goal, with a big dream, and then turn that into a goal, work backwards, and see if it's something that you can actually achieve. So once I did the calculations and I say, you know what, if I save at a minimum $833, I can get this goal accomplished in about 7.5 years, I think, to save $100,000. Or if I hit $1,000 every single month, I can shave off X number of months and I can save that. So reverse engineer your goal, even if it seems a little bit scary. If you don't have a goal that's a little bit scary, you probably aren't dreaming big enough. Another uncomfortable question. Another uncomfortable question. Is your financial life a disorganized mess, right? If you were looking to invest in a business and you went on a tour of 2 different businesses and you went inside of one business office and it's pristine, right? White walls, everybody's sitting at their desk typing away and, doing the business of work, looking very professional. And you're like, okay, this is some place I might want to invest my money in, or a place I might consider working. Then you go into the next business and people are sitting with their feet up on a desk, eating popcorn and chips. Somebody got a TV on, dancing to some music on the side. It's paper strewn everywhere. Is that a business you would want to work at or invest your money in? Probably not. But why don't we look at our own financial lives as almost like a business? If you have stacks of bills and papers all over the place, you don't know what bill goes where or who you owe what to, your financial life could potentially be a disorganized mess. So one thing that I always tell people is this concept of dating your money, which sounds kind of creepy at the outset. Budget and chill, right? Date your money. Dating your money basically means to be concerned about your money, spend time with your money. The same way when we're dating or courting someone, we're excited to go on a date. We're putting it in our phone and putting it on our calendars, right? We're putting it down because we know that on Thursday is date night, or with your spouse even. Hopefully you're having some date nights with your spouse. I know it's kind of hard right now with COVID, but you get my point. It's something that's important to you. Make time for it. And it should be no different with your finances. So have a time, a specific day of the week, a specific time. It could be Thursday night at 8 p.m. where you sit down once the kids are in bed or whatever. You go over your budget, you review your financial goals, you track your bills, you review your debt, you track your net worth, you go over the budget, review your expenses, what have you. But maybe it's twice a month that you do this, or maybe you have a budget meeting with your spouse twice a month and you go over your goals. What are your goals? And ladies, this is a pro tip right here that I had. It took me years. I don't know why it took me so many years to figure this out. But one thing that I found is that when I started talking to my husband about the why behind the money, he got a lot more excited about saving and budgeting and doing all those other things. He doesn't want to be in the weeds, at least my husband doesn't, in the weeds of every little expense. Whereas I can sit and look at a spreadsheet all day about what we spent and where, and I know down to the penny what we spent on groceries and X, Y, and Z. My husband is not here for that. I had to learn that over years of time of nagging to figure out that that's just not his thing. But once I started talking with him, men oftentimes are big picture people. So once I started talking about the big picture stuff, like, so where are we going to retire? And how much money do you think we need to retire? What do you think about driving across country in an RV once we're done with work? And what do you want to do? X, Y, and Z. Once I started having those conversations, his ears perked up a little bit. He was more excited to talk about the finances when I started talking about the why behind what we're doing. So it's not just we're, cutting back on paper products and not buying paper cups to save just a few bucks, but those extra bucks are going to go into our 529 plan for the kids for college. And that means we don't have to take out loans for them potentially when they're ready to go off to school. So having those conversations and sharing it, framing it around the why oftentimes will make a big difference. So if you are butting heads with them about the money, try having those open-ended conversations about your finances, and it might just change his tune a little bit. Monitor your progress when you are going over your goals and creating your goals, whether it's weekly, monthly, quarterly, yearly. Only you can decide what that should be. Some accounts that I recommend everybody have, if you don't, a free basic checking account, short-term savings accounts for sinking funds. A sinking fund is basically where you save incrementally for a bigger goal. Perfect example is Christmas or a vacation. Christmas, for example, you know that you spend, let's say, $1,200 for Christmas every single year on average, right? You'll want to save about $100 a month in order to have that $1,200 so that you can pay for your Christmas gifts in cash and not have to put it on a credit card. So short-term savings accounts where you know the kids' summer camp is coming up, or you know that you want to save for that trip to Jamaica once COVID is over, right? And you know you need $4,000 to do it. Work backwards from that goal and start putting aside a small portion of that every paycheck or every month in order to reach that. Having an emergency fund, of course, is very, very critical. I always tell folks to aim at least for 1 month of your expenses in savings, and then ultimately 3 to 6 months. And if you're really feeling big and bold, 12 months of expenses set aside in an emergency fund. But start small. Even if it's $1,000, start there, because that's something that's ultimately very achievable for most people. A life happens fund, I like to just refer to that as an emergency fund for my emergency fund. Remember, y'all, I'm a guardian. We talked about the personality types. So I like to be prepared and have a plan for something. So it's not enough for me to just have an emergency fund. I have an emergency fund for my emergency fund so that I keep the real emergency fund for real emergencies when real stuff comes up. But if a flat tire or a car repair comes up, I have this little side account or the life happens fund where I can cover that and not have to touch the real emergency fund. Y'all don't have to go that far, but that's just me. A long-term savings account for wealth building. And of course, hopefully you're putting something away for retirement. I'm not going to go deep into investments, but if you all have questions, we'll definitely be opening up for questions in the last few minutes to get your questions answered if you have specific questions. What is a budget? A budget is telling your money where to go instead of wondering where it went. And that's a great quote from John Maxwell. It's a quote that I love. It's basically just a spending plan for your money. It doesn't have to be a plan for deprivation or always be about cutting things out, but it's a plan and a way for you to pay for the things that are important. So cut out the stuff that doesn't matter to you, and that leaves more money for the things that do matter. So if you have found yourself having struggles with the budget, if you are on the budget struggle bus, here are some of the things that I've heard within my community of women that I talk to a lot about finances, reasons why you get into trouble. Trouble getting started, trouble sticking with it, meaning you start your budget in January, but then by February you forgot all about it. Omitting line items in your budget, unplanned expenses. This is a big one. So if you don't have an emergency fund, what happens when that flat tire does come up? Credit card comes out. Or if you have a parent that is a caretaker, you might be running over there trying to get some money from a parent to replace your tire. You're coming up with some kind of way to pay for that expense, but you didn't have a plan for it. So having an emergency fund, we always know that life will happen. Can't plan for everything. Hello, COVID, can't plan for everything. But having an emergency fund can help to bridge the gap a bit if you come across unplanned or emergency expenses. Impulse buying, any hands raised? I've overcome that beast. Mostly. Impulse buying. Bills going up, income staying the same. That's just a reality. Our income isn't going up nearly as fast as our expenses. So that's where those side hustles come in sometimes, and trouble staying motivated. Budgeting cycle. I'm not going to go into great detail about that. We'll save that for another time. But what I will say about budgeting is make sure that you pick a framework for budgeting that works with your personality. Okay. Because I'm on YouTube a lot, I see a lot of these planning videos and cute planners, and I have a planner line, so I'm all for the cute planners. But what's the point of having a cute planner if you don't ever write in it, right? If it's cute and it has stickers and it just sits on your table or on your nightstand, what's the point? But we do all have our phones with us most of the time. So if you know that an app is going to be easier for you to budget with, then do that. It doesn't have to be a cute planner. It doesn't have to be an Excel spreadsheet. It could just be a piece of paper and a pen. Black and white notebook, spiral notebook, whatever. Make sure to get the budget done, but pick a framework that is going to work for your lifestyle and for your personality. And the best type or method of budgeting that I recommend for beginners who struggle with the budget is a paycheck budget, which means you literally budget one paycheck at a time. Doesn't mean that you have to be living paycheck to paycheck, but you're just dealing with one set of money, one pot of money at a time to figure out your specific plan for your money for that paycheck. And it gets easier every time you do it. So for most of us, we get paid biweekly. So biweekly budgeting works best for most folks. So for those of you who really, really, really hate budgeting, here's a strategy that I recommend. Keep it simple. Give, save, and invest off of the top. Learn how to live off the rest. Learn how to live off of the rest. That's it. If you know that you want to return your 10% tithe and an offering, and you have a savings goal of putting away 10% of every paycheck that you get, and you want to put 10% from your paycheck into your 401k, and then you say, you know what, I'm going to live off the rest. Once I'm checking those 3 buckets, I'm giving, I'm saving, I'm investing, I can live guilt-free off of the rest. I can take that trip if I want, because I know I've checked the 3 boxes and I've taken care of my goals at the top, and then I learn how to live off of the rest. And then I think this is my final tough question. You don't have to answer. I'm not asking anybody to answer this in the chat, but how much of your money do you get to keep? How much of your money do you get to keep? Everybody knows at least one person who is constantly talking about how much money they make. That don't impress me, sis. Do not tell me how much money you make. If you want to tell me how much of that money you are keeping, then that's where my ears start to perk up, okay? Because you can make tons of money, but if you're also spending tons of money and not saving any of it, nothing from nothing leaves nothing. So how much of your money do you get to keep? Especially right now, this time of year, where we starting to get those W-2s in the mail and we can see how much money we earned from our jobs, all the hard work we put in over the last 12 months. And then you look at that amount and then you say to yourself, how much of this money did I keep? Where did all of this money go? That is one of the worst feelings in the world, to get that W-2 and have no idea where all that money went to. So here's a habit that I want to leave with. I think this might be my last slide, but pay yourself like you pay a bill. Pay yourself like you pay a bill. This is a principle that I live by, meaning that when I do my budget, I literally have line items in there for paying myself. Okay. I don't ascribe to pay myself first, because we pay God first. We return to God what is His. But we will also pay ourselves like we pay a bill, which means the same urgency in which you pay Verizon and BG&E because you don't want to be sitting in a cold house. The same way you have that sense of urgency about paying your car note and your mortgage, you want to have a line item and have that same degree of urgency for paying yourself. So even if you have to literally write your name on the budget, Evelyn, Sherry, Carlette, whatever your name is, Nicole, write your name in that budget and say, I'm putting aside $50 for myself every time I get paid. Put it aside, automatically transfer it into a savings, and forget about it. And you will be amazed at how quickly that money will grow. And then if you are a little more advanced, invest that $50 every time you get paid. And that money will be money that you will live off of one day in retirement, so that you can have a secure retirement, or this little fund that you pass down to your kids one day, or what have you. But always set aside something and pay yourself like you pay a bill. So before I open it up for questions, I do want to leave you with a few action items just to summarize what we talked about. So start praying about your financial life. That is number one. Put that on your prayer list, okay? There's no reason why we should be struggling in silence. Even if you can't talk to your family and friends about what's going on with your finances, talk to God about it. Talk to Him about your struggles, and make sure that you have wisdom and discernment for what to do with your money, or how to find the right resources if you are not sure how to move on your own. Introspection. Take a look. I'll definitely, the replay, I guess, will be up on the church's channel and on the Facebook page as well. So you can go back and watch this again if you want. Share it with somebody who you think could benefit from it. And go back and look at those personality types. See if you see anything that resonates with you. Give your spouse and yourself some grace. Do a financial inventory. I know the pastor talked about this. Know who you owe, how much you owe, what your credit score is. Set up specific goals around saving, paying off debt, investing, and also income goals. And think about where you want to be 5 years from now, 10 years from now. Write it down. The thing that happens is that we, a lot of times, will overestimate what we can get accomplished in a year. We have 25 goals that we want to get accomplished in 12 months, but we don't think about what we could actually accomplish in 10 years. We underestimate what we could accomplish in a decade. So start thinking long-term, work on these action items, and start praying about your money. Let's see. Okay, make sure my screen share is off. I think so. Yes. Okay. So now we're going to open it up for questions. If anybody has questions. Oh, my father-in-law is talking about that trip to Tahiti. He's been talking about that trip for so long. You're going to get there one day, Elder. You're going to get there. I know that's on your bucket list to get to Tahiti. You're going to get there. Anybody have specific questions or want me to answer a question, or any specific thing that I glazed over you want more information on? And for anybody that is interested, I post videos every single week on my YouTube channel. Frugalchiclife.com is my website. My planners that I mentioned, I do have for sale there as well. And I usually post at least one video, usually 2 per week. The pastor's saying, where can we purchase the budget planner? Frugalchiclife.com. We could put that up on the banner. Frugalchiclife.com. That's the website where I do sell the physical planners. And again, use whatever's going to work for you. If you know that you're an app person, then do an app. Elder Kevin says, as we enter into retirement, how should our financial plans be set? Great question. So the first thing I would say is you got to have a goal that you're working towards. So retirement is great. All of us want to get there one day. I hope to get there sooner rather than later. But we have to know what that number is. So one rule of thumb that I like to tell people when you're trying to figure out how much money you need to retire is to do the rule of 25. Okay. So what you'll want to do is figure out how much you spend annually. Okay. How much money are you spending in your household? Maybe you spend, excuse me, maybe you spend $40,000 every single year on average to live your life. You would take $40,000 and multiply that by 25, and that would give you your loose retirement number. So $40,000 times 25, that's $1 million. So whatever you spend annually, multiply that number by 25, and that should give you at least a goal post to work towards to figure out how much money should I be saving. And other tips for retirement, take advantage of your workplace accounts. If you have a 401k, a 403b, put in as much as you can. That is not only going to grow in those accounts and fund your retirement lifestyle, but it is also going to lower your tax bill so you don't pay taxes on the money that you're putting into your 403b and 401k. So do that. Open a Roth IRA if you are able to. And then once you are doing those things, invest money in the general stock market, and that money you can access at any time. You know that your 401k, for example, I can't touch my 401k without penalty until I'm 59 and a half. But what if I want to retire when I'm 50? That's where my other investments come in. I can use that money to retire early. And then when I turn 59 and a half, then I can start tapping into those retirement accounts. Oh, you think he meant tips once you are already retired? As we enter in retirement, how should our financial plans be set? So the same thing I would say that governs your finances pre-retirement. I think it's the same thing. I think if you have a good plan for retirement, a good plan for your finances pre-retirement, that'll just roll over into your retirement. I do think obviously you have to be more vigilant with your dollars because you have to make them stretch. And one big tip that I recommend is to try to work towards having a paid off house by the time you retire, or at least having your mortgage to be very, very reasonable when you go into retirement. And definitely once you enter into that retirement phase, you probably have grandkids and kids and stuff that you want to help out. But remember, don't forget to put on your own financial oxygen mask first before you can bless anybody else. Kristen says, if you're saving for a house, should we invest that money for it to grow quicker or too risky? Ooh, okay, good question. It depends on the time frame of you buying the house. Okay, if you have a plan to buy the house within 1 or 2 years, do not invest it. That would be my answer. Do not invest any money that you plan to use within the next 1 to 3 years. If you plan to buy the house in 5 years, then that's reasonable. You could put your money into an index fund that is going to return probably between 7 and 8% at least, based on what the stock market has done historically. And then you can do that. But what will happen is, let's say you wanted to invest to save for your down payment for your house, and you want to buy the house, say it's 2019 and you're investing, then 2020 and COVID hits, right? And you wanted to buy that house right at the time that COVID hits and your investments start to tank. You want to give yourself enough window of time so that your investments can recover and you can have access to that cash and the growth to use for your down payment. So short answer, don't invest any money that you want to have access to within the next 1 to 3 years. You don't want to invest it. Keep it in a high yield savings account. Evelyn says, I have small money. Where do I begin to invest? So I use an app called the Stash app. Highly, highly recommend it. I opened mine up right at the beginning of the pandemic and I invested my stimulus money. And that money has grown pretty tremendously. So far to date, I have almost a 40% return on the money that I invested because the market was low. So the Stash app, you can invest $5, $10, $1. They have this one feature where you can invest the spare change. So if you make a purchase and the purchase is $10.75, you can invest the 25 cents. Okay, it'll invest the change and round it up to the next dollar amount. So the Stash app, highly recommend that. Kristen says, I've tried to invest in those smaller apps like Robinhood and continue to lose money. Is there a specific app that's a little less risky? So it's not necessarily the app itself that's risky. In Robinhood or Stash or whatever, it's not the app itself that's risky. It's probably what you were investing in. So what I usually tell people is that a less risky investment is normally an index fund. So a practical example, the best way I can explain it is an index fund is like a basket of stocks. It's a type of mutual fund. So if I put all of my money into Amazon, even though Amazon is an amazing company, but what if Amazon goes bankrupt tomorrow and I have 100% of my money in Amazon? I could lose 100% of my money. But if I have a little slice of Amazon, a little piece of Tesla, a little piece of PayPal, a piece of Facebook, a piece of Johnson & Johnson, index fund, I have a little piece of all that in one fund, it gives me diversification, which means that if one company is not doing well, there are going to be 5, 10, 20, 30 other companies in that fund that probably are doing well. So that helps to balance it out. So I'd recommend investing in an index fund or an ETF to help mitigate your risk. And don't do what they call speculative investments, meaning you just hear about a hot stock. Y'all been hearing about all this GameStop stuff, right? You don't want to just hop on a hot stock because you heard about it on TV. Once you heard about it on TV or in the barbershop or at the train station or on your job, it's probably too late to really make any money off of it. And it's probably just hype. So those are my pieces of advice. So look into the Stash app. That's a great one. I use it myself. And just start investing with small amounts, and that'll help you to build your confidence. Any other questions? This was great. Did anybody get anything from this? Was this helpful? Give me a yes. Give me a yes in the chat if it was helpful. All right, Pastor, I think I'm all done. If there are no more questions, do you want to close us out?
All right. Well, First Lady, I certainly thank you for lending your expertise and your time. And I certainly thank each person for your presence and your participation. My hope, our goal, our prayer for all of us, in particular, the community that we belong to, African Americans, is that we would use the tools at our disposal in order to foster our financial freedom, to give us more choices, to strive towards equity, and so that we can all be empowered and our children can have a brighter future and a better start than many of us had. And so thank you, First Lady, for sharing that. I know there's so much that you could cover as it relates to financial wherewithal, but I believe that this was awesome today. Just want to thank each person for being here on this snowy Sunday. I pray that we continue to stay safe and that we take advantage of this time at home. Let's educate ourselves. Let's continue to equip ourselves and so forth. Some of the apps and some of the tools that First Lady gave, you can visit her website. There's a whole bunch of stuff there. I have learned, and this is my wife, I have learned so much about personal finance from her. My Stash app is working quite well. Thank glory be to God for that. And so it's not, and you can start with something basic. You get $20, $50, $100, whatever. But the goal is to move the ball forward, right? You don't want to end 2021 the same way you ended 2020. Let's continue to grow together in Jesus' name. Father, we thank you for this time today. Bless each person who has participated in any way, shape, or form. Those from the periphery, those from up close with questions. We just ask that you would continue to bless us with your favor, with your wisdom, with your heart, God. That's what we want. We want your heart, God, so that we are able to manage the resources that you have entrusted us with, so that we can all hear at the end of our lives journey, well done, good and faithful servant. You've been faithful over many few things. Now I will make you ruler over many. And so we love you in Jesus' name. Amen. All right, everybody. We want to say thank you again. We love you. We absolutely love you. And there is nothing at all anybody can do about it. God bless you.